welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video. It is going to be another update in my Pan Those Eyeshadows series. This was a project that was created by Lexi a couple of years ago. I believe she started doing this project herself in either 2016 or 2017, and last year this project really took off. It is personally one of my favorite projects to do because I love eyeshadow, and this has really helped me get a lot of use out of palettes that I normally wouldn't have, shades that I normally wouldn't have. If you guys are new to this project, essentially I randomly select 5 eyeshadows to work on every single month, and I either work on them until I hit pan on them, or sorry you guys, it is my daughter's first day of kindergarten today, so I am just like a ball of anxiety if you feel like I can't find my words today. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear my dog chewing his bone. Anyway, the whole idea of this project is to randomly generate eyeshadow pans within your collection to work on. A lot of people have kind of tweaked this project to work for themselves. For me, I randomly select 5 shadows and I either work on each shadow until I hit pan or until it has been in the project for 3 months and I've used it a minimum of 15 times. I have given myself the 3 passes to use. So if I decide like I'm just not getting use out of a shade, then I can just choose like to pass on that shade and just decide not to work on it. And I've decided if I were to roll a black in, or yeah, just a black, I'm not going to work on a black eyeshadow. Other than that, everything else is fair game. I have already used 2 of my passes this year, so I'm down to 1, and hint, I'm going to use a pass today. I don't have the most exciting progress to share with you. In fact, I feel like this might be the least exciting update of my entire year thus far. I did hit pan on 3 shadows, but none of them were ones that I was working on within this project, so I will share those with you. And if you're interested in seeing my progress on the rest of the pans that I was working on, stay tuned. First, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel and you like project panning videos, or you just like to talk about makeup and act a little silly, then I would love if you would consider subscribing if you have not already. But other than that, let's just jump into this video. All right, guys, let's start with the 3 pans that the 3 shadows that I hit pan on that weren't going in this project. So first, out of my Dominique Cosmetics Rustic Glam, don't worry, it's not like that exciting, you guys, but I did hit pan on the shade Free Spirit. I obviously have a pretty decent pan size going in this one. I've just used this as a lid setting shade. I've mentioned this on my channel many times before, but this was a bit of a disappointing palette in my opinion. I was really excited for this one, but I really don't get a ton of use out of this. I just feel like the formula in this one isn't the same as the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette, and the only shades that I really reach for in this palette are the shades Free Spirit and then like this L shape of shades right here. But yeah, I do regret purchasing this palette, unfortunately. I also was able to hit pan on a shade out of my Huda Beauty Coral Obsessions palette. I was reaching for this palette a ton in August. This is like one of my favorite summer palettes, and I'm sure you can see the pan right here. The Huda pans are actually a lot more shallow than like I thought when I originally started working on these. I remember I was working on my Huda Nude palette in this project earlier this year, and I thought it was going to take me forever to hit pan, and then one day I just happened to hit pan and I was like, oh, these pans are actually more shallow than I thought that they were. So this is what that pan looks like. This palette will probably be retired for the rest of the year, but I did get a ton of use out of this in August, which I was really happy about. And then out of my Tarte Clay Play palette, this was going in my whole collection project pan, and I did hit pan on this shade right here. It is the most reflective packaging ever, but this is in the shade Smoke, and I use this in my brows. I considered this an eyeshadow pan because, I mean, it's an eyeshadow pan in my opinion. So I hit pan on those 3 shades. I can't remember my total for the year. I'm working my way to try and hit 50 eyeshadow pans this year. I don't know that I'm gonna hit my goal. I would have to be like a panning queen the next 4 months of the year, but you know, weirder things have happened. We will see. Let's jump into my 6 shades that I was working on. So I randomly generate 5 shades and I choose a 6th shade from a palette that I want to work on. I think for the last 4 months of the year, I'm going to choose just a palette in general that I want to work on that I feel like will help the color story of whatever my randomly generated numbers are, and then each month I'll just choose a palette to work on alongside the rest of my 5 shades, just to see if I can get some more progress on, you know, palettes throughout my collection. So let's jump into all of the eyeshadow pans that I was working on, starting with this one. This is from my ColourPop Baby Got Peach palette, and right after I completed or hit pan on one of the shades in here from the last rotation, this is in the shade Get Even, I hit pan on it and then immediately rolled in the shade Glaze It. And actually, you guys, I don't think this is the real Glaze It shade. My shades fell out, so my palette is all jumbled, but this is in the spot Glaze It, and this is the shade that I am working on. So I believe this shade, or this shadow, has been in for 2 rotations now, and I have used this a total of 9 plus 9, 18 times. So I've already reached my 15 use mark. I just have to use it for another month to be able to roll it out, and I think if I were to use it another 9 times, that would put me at 27 uses, and it took me 25 uses to hit pan on the shade Get Even. So I'm hoping I will be able to hit pan on this shade. The only problem is this is a very, like, obviously peach toned shade because it comes from a peach toned palette. So I don't know. I mean, I can make this look, or I can make this work with quite a few, you know, fall themed looks. Like, I even could have paired it with the look that I'm wearing today if I didn't want to do purple on the lids. I did use the Pumpkin Spice palette from Too Faced on my eyes today. I feel like the blending could have been better today, but like I said, I was a ball of anxiety, so I was just like, I don't even know what was happening when I was doing my eyeshadow today. I'm very confident I will be rolling this out and hopefully have pan on this for the next update. Let's just get this one out of the way. This is the one I randomly selected for myself. This is the ABH Amrezy palette. I really just wanted to get some more use on this palette. I feel like this one was kind of getting neglected. I did end up reaching for this palette a total of 6 times, and I was focusing on the shade Anastasia right here. I will try and insert pictures. I'm hoping I took pictures. I've been so bad at my picture game this year with my projects. I need to, like, get my life in order again. It's just so hard with taking a dog in this year. I mean, I love my dog. He's my little buddy sitting next to me over here. And then having this crazy 5-year-old. I remember back when I was younger, my mom would be like, I just can't wait till you have kids and, like, it's payback one day. I hope they have the energy that you have as a kid. And trust me, I feel like Zoe's, like, times a billion the energy that I have. We were shopping in Target the other day for back to school clothes, and a lady came up to me and was like, wow, your daughter has a lot of energy. And I was like, trust me, I know. My daughter hasn't napped since she's been like 2 years old and is never tired and goes to bed well past me, I swear. I need to get my life in order so I can take pictures and be a much better project panner. I think I'm gonna get a scale for next year. Like, we're gonna be a panning queen next year, but a part of me has, like, given up on being, like, a panning perfectionist this year and showing all of my progress. But if I did remember to take pictures, I will insert. There's definitely, like, you can tell that this shade has gotten some love, as well as some other shades throughout the palette. I know I reached into Cupcake a couple of times, and then some of the, like, more neutral browns as well. So I reached for this again 6 times. I'm happy with that. I feel like this was a palette that was getting neglected, so very happy to have gotten some use on that. This palette right here, my Natasha Denona Gold palette. I love this palette, but the shade that was selected for me was the shade Aurora, which is this shade right here. Let me swatch this one for you. This one, I feel like the swatch definitely does not do it justice. This is what it looks like. This one is better almost as like a lid topper shade. If you put down like a different base and then you put this on top, it can be super, super beautiful. I've also used this on my lower lash line, and I think it's gorgeous on my lower lash line, but it's just not something that I'm reaching for like day to day if I'm going to work. And then on my days off, I'm always trying to like play with my newer palettes. Right now I'm trying to get looks together or a review together for the Kaleidos Escape Pod. I know that came out forever ago, but I really want to start to do just dedicated reviews on palettes, especially from indie brands on my channel, even if they're going up months later, just because, I mean, it's fun for me. So if you have any indie brands or indie palettes you want to see reviews on, let me know. I also have the Marvels palette that was in collaboration with Mel Thompson that I'm currently like working my way through that palette. I just want to make sure I get like at least 2 to 3 uses of every single shade so I can kind of form an opinion on every shade and be able to tell you guys were there any dud shades, etc. But for this one, I used that shade 2 times. As of the last update, I was at 3. This is the second month that this has been in this project, so I'm at 5 uses, 2 months. So in order to roll this out, I would need to use it 10 times this next update. We'll see. I do feel like first of all, this is a very like, this reminds me, or this gives me very fall vibes. Like, I freaking love this palette, and it does just kind of give me those like we're ready to go to the pumpkin patch vibes. So maybe I can get some more use out of it. Plus the way that this shadow specifically is formulated, it does, like, even using it 5 times, like there's a dip there, especially because I have been using it as like an eyeliner on the lower lash line. So maybe I'll surprise myself and be able to hit pan on that. But as of right now, that one is staying in the project. The shade, you guys, that I am going to use my 3rd and final pass on comes from my BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. And you guys know I absolutely adore and love this palette. But the shade that I was working on was this one, which is in the shade Ultimate. It's this very beautiful, kind of reminds me of a pool. I don't know why it reminds me of a pool. It's this beautiful bright blue shade. So this has now been in this project for 3 months, and I had used it 9 times as of the last update, which is actually kind of shocking, but I didn't use it at all the last month of August. I think because I was so focused on using my Odin's Eye palette to get my review for that, I just kind of neglected some of these other palettes. I kind of neglected my Project Pan palettes, so I'm a little bit disappointed in myself for that. But I just don't see myself using this shade now that we've reached the fall. So I am going to roll this out, meaning we will roll in a shade to replace this one. But I was a little bit bummed at myself for not even reaching, like not even making an attempt to try and reach for it a couple of times. And then also, embarrassingly enough, my Subculture palette. This is now, I believe, been in for 3 months as well. I had reached for the shade that I was working on, which is Electric, and thank goodness I got Electric because this is my favorite shade in this palette. I had reached for this six times up until this last update, and I don't know how well you'll be able to see that one swatched. This is like usually just an inner corner highlight for me. It's an interesting shade. I feel like I need to dig into this one to really get the color payoff that I'm looking for, but it is such an interesting and unique shade. I didn't reach for this one at all either. I remember in July I had used this as an inner corner highlight, and one of my team members was like, what'd you put on your inner corner? It was a boy, by the way. He was like, what did you put on the inner corner of your eyes? Is that like a green? And I was like self-conscious of myself then, so I was like, all right, well, that's the last time I have fun with my inner corner highlight ever at work, even though seriously I should be able to do what I want. So maybe I'll do like a really like warm fall smoky eye and then put this in the inner corner. I always tell myself like I do these neutral everyday looks at work, but then I get to work and I'm like, whoa, like that's a lot more blown out and a lot more smoky than like an actual natural work eyeshadow look. But you know, you do you, boo, and who cares. So that one's gonna keep rolling, unfortunately. I would be excited to hit pan on a shade out of the Subculture palette though, but we're at 6 uses on that one. And then the final shade that I was working on comes from my Natasha Denona Mini Retro palette. This is one of my absolute favorite Natasha Denona palettes, especially in terms of the minis, which at first I was intimidated by the color story of this, but I've actually had a ton of fun with this palette. The shade that I'm working on is this one right here, which is in the shade Vintage Taupe. As of the last update, I had only reached for this shade 1 time, shockingly enough. And then as of now, I reached for it an additional 10 times, putting us at 11 total times. And there is a pretty good dip going in this. I hope you'll be able to kind of see the dip. I have been having so much fun with mauve tone looks lately. I feel like in the past I've been like, I don't know if I want to wear mauve tones to work, but I've been pairing this with the Queen of Hearts palette because I was also working on that palette in my Pan of Every Color project. And this vintage taupe paired with the like mauve matte tone in the Queen of Hearts palette is absolutely stunning. So I was having so much fun with that. I really don't feel like I'll have an issue hitting pan in this next update. So I'm very excited to continue to play with this. Even like these green and blue shades give me very fall vibes. This kind of looks like a spring palette, but I also feel like if you mix in like this bottom third, you could make this very fall-esque. So for 5 pans, this actually draws a lot of inspiration for me and makes me feel like pretty creatively inspired. I love my Natasha Denona mini palette, so I am excited to continue to work on that. That being said, we are going to roll in one new shade to replace the, what is it? The BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. So we're going to do that. And then I will also choose the palette that I just want to work on alongside my color story. So I'm going to go quickly wash off my swatches. I'll swatch out everything that still remains in this project, and then we will randomly generate a new shade to work on. Okay, so the shades we're still working on, we have Electric from the Subculture palette, and that one always takes a little bit of building. Then from the Natasha Denona Gold, we have the shade Aurora, which again, I feel like just doesn't always, I feel like this one doesn't do it justice in its swatch. Then we have from the Baby Got Peach, my shade Glaze It, but I don't think it's the real Glaze It if you were to look at the actual palette. There's that. And then finally we have Vintage Taupe. I actually went on the Natasha Denona website to see if you could buy Vintage Taupe as a single, and I personally couldn't find it. If you guys have seen it and know where I could get it as a single, I really freaking love this shade. Like, this might be one of my favorite matte shades in my entire collection, so maybe I'll just have to keep buying the mini for this shade if I were to go through it. So these are the 4 shades we currently have. Now let's randomly generate a new shade. So I have brought some new palettes into my collection, quite a few. Quite a few. So we have a lot of new shades that are in the mix of potentially getting selected. Okay, so I currently have 1,011 eligible pans to be selected. So let's see what we get. We get number 542 and 542. Scrolling. Still scrolling. 542, where are you? I'm scared. 542. 542 comes from my Baby Got Peach palette. Oh my gosh, I jinxed myself when I said that I wouldn't be mad if another Baby Got Peach palette got selected like 2 rotations ago. Unfortunately, the shade that got selected is Hungry Ghost, which is actually, it's in the wrong spot on mine, but it's the freaking glitter shade, which, do I want to work on a glitter? Ugh, you guys, I just don't know if I want to. I mean, I could. Oh, what do you guys think? I mean, it's pretty. Maybe, okay, so I'm gonna keep this in here, but I'm also, in case I decide like this just is not for me, also I feel like it'd be really easy to hit pan on a glitter. My friend Alex, oh my gosh, brilliant. She said that the way that she used her glitter was she would paint her nails and then put it on top. So I am gonna try that, but I think just for the sake of not being super excited to work on glitter, maybe I will randomly generate a 6th shade to work on, just because the glitter is like not making me so happy. And then I'll also still choose a palette, you guys. Don't you dare worry, I will still choose a palette. So let's go back into Pretty Random and let's randomly generate another one. And we get number 455, which comes from my Queen of Hearts palette, and it is in the shade Crown, which I believe, no, that one moment, I just got done playing around with that palette quite a bit too, so I guess it's just time for me to play around with the Queen of Hearts palette. Oh, okay, yay, I was happy. I was worried that Crown was actually just like this shade, which is an Air, which is a really nice lid setting shade, but it's a little bit deep for me. So this is more of like a, kind of like a cleanup shade. Like if I'm just trying to really blend out the edges, like I probably could have used this in my look today to really blend stuff out rather than have it be like this harsh mess. But the shade Crown is this one right here, which is one of the most beautiful inner corner highlights. I actually almost used this on my inner corner today. This is what this looks like, and I feel like this will be a really easy one for me to use like just about every single day on my inner corner. So I mean, this is a relatively not relatively untouched, but like not the most used pan in this shadow. But I think if I focus my brush in like the same spot every time I go in to do an inner corner, I think that this one could see some pretty significant progress really quickly. I obviously haven't hit pan on any shades within this palette, so it would be exciting to hit pan on this palette. And I really like this palette. I think maybe I just haven't spent enough time like consistently playing around with it to really appreciate it the way that a lot of other people do. I mean, I like this palette. I just always say I don't necessarily know that I feel like it was worth all the hype that it got, but I will say I have been having a ton of fun playing around with some of the berries and reds. This was in my pan of every color project, so I used this 20 times up until very recently, and now I am actually very excited to continue to play with this one because I do think this does really scream fall. So I am excited that this palette in general is going to be in this project because I definitely can see myself, especially because I was pairing this shade Princess with the shade Vintage Taupe quite a bit. I actually like my color story. Like I feel like I could do some really fun things with just this whole color story in general. Maybe I'll try and create a look with all of my pans with the exception of maybe the glitter. But I'm actually really excited about the color story for this one, and I'm hoping to have more progress for you guys next time. My goal is to, I think I needed to hit pan on anywhere between 3 and 4 shadows the rest of the year in order to hit my goal of 50. I hit 3 last month. I'm hoping to have pan on 4 shades this next month, although I don't feel like I have any pans within my collection currently that I'm like really close to hitting, but maybe my goal would be like 2 within this project. Let me quickly go choose a palette that I want to pair with this color story, and I will be right back. Okay, that was actually a no-brainer. I'm really wanting to play around with this palette so that I can get my full thoughts and review on it. I'm so excited for Mel, and just this is such a beautiful palette all around, from just the details of the design to the actual shadows inside. And I feel like the color story of this will actually match really well with a lot of the shadows that I have in here. We've got some greens and blues already going, and then we have some greens and blues in here. We have this beautiful lavender, which I feel like could create really, really pretty looks. And then we have like a metallic green. We have some more mauve tones. So I feel like this palette is going to offer me a lot of versatility to pair with the other shadows that I'm working on. So I'll take a picture of what this palette looks like now. And my goal isn't necessarily to hit pan on any shades in this palette. I just want to show this palette some love, see how I can make this palette, like see if this can be a complementary palette to the rest of the shades in this, and just really like kind of do like a palette a month. Like aren't there videos where people choose like a palette to focus on? They do like a palette a week. I'm gonna do like a month, and we'll just see what the progress looks like in a month. So like I said, I'll take a picture of where we're at now, and then we'll see where we're at in a month, see maybe which colors and shades I obviously gravitated towards the most, and I think it'll be really fun. So if you guys are, leave me your feedback down below. Tell me if you like this idea of pulling in another palette just to focus on. I personally am really excited for it because it gives me the opportunity to choose a palette that maybe isn't getting love, or maybe one that I really want to focus on like this so that I can get a review out for it. But I also do feel like this will pair really nicely with the rest of my color story. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed this update. If you are currently working on panning eyeshadows, I would love to hear how it's going. How many pans have you hit this year? What are your favorite, or what are your easiest, what's your easiest shadow formula to hit pan on? And then also the the most difficult. I find that my Tarte and Too Faced are definitely the most difficult to hit pan on, and then my Huda I usually don't have too much trouble with, and then ABH obviously is a softer formula, but I'm really excited to just continue this journey throughout the rest of the year. I'm excited to do a refresh and start this project again next year. I hope that you guys enjoyed this update. Thank you so much for sticking around to watch and for supporting my channel as you always do. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye!